So Abby, why don't you introduce us to your friend Gaabi and how you know her?
This is Gaabi Hathaway. I met Gaabi through my position at the MIU farm, and wow, deep connection through regenerative agriculture and community. And Chris told me about you and said, you gotta meet Gaabi. You'd have a lot in common with Gaabi. I think you guys would be friends. And then the rest is history.
Would you say it's the same?
Yeah. I mean, we met through...
The first time you guys met?
We met on the phone because you were inviting us to speak at the conference that you put on at the farm, the Harvest Festival. And I remember our first conversation was about promoting women voices in ag. And so the rest is history. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the dairy that you worked at and the practices as to how they would differ from traditional dairies.
Yeah. So Ratings Dairy is an organic regenerative farm. So that means that the cows are on grass almost all the year there. And organic, it's only required that they're on grass for a third of the year. Is that right? And it's funny, I don't even know because they're on grass like all but a few weeks, when it's really cold. And it's not that just that they're on grass, standing around, eating wherever they want. This regenerative way of raising cattle on the farm on grass is only regenerative if you're moving them. Similar to wild herds of grazing, like bison or elk, grouped together, they graze really intensely, leave the land, let it rest, come back when it's ready. And that's all through predator pressure, but in today's day and age, we use electric fencing. So we kind of mimic the natural grazing behavior of wild animals, and that actually improves the plant stand, both above ground and below ground. So the roots are feeding the soil and the grass is feeding the cows in a way that actually regenerates the life in the soil and can sequester carbon. So regenerative farming feeds back to the system. It adds to the system and improves it. And we like that word because it is a step above sustainable. So sustainable farming was the word a while ago. And we don't just want to sustain what we have. In a lot of places, what we have is not good. And so the word regenerative farming indicates that we are reviving the land.
So when you're moving the cattle, you're moving them with an electric fence. Do you move the electrical fence to push them over, or like almost like a pivot of farming? Like, tell a guy that doesn't understand regenerative farming.
Yeah, that's a good question.
How that moves.
Yeah. So the fence is in place of the predator. The cows get trained to it. And they know that when a farmer's out there reeling up a electrical wire, it's like plastic and metal wire woven, so you can move it easily. They know that when you're out there taking up a fence, it's time to eat more food. So they don't have to be pushed. Generally, they know it's time to move. They know that there's a whole buffet waiting for them. But then since we keep them in smaller areas to move around the land, they're eating all of the forage almost evenly, like a buffet where there's a lot of people and you're just going to take what you can get before your neighbor eats the really good chocolate cake. And so that lets them have a really nice balanced diet, and then that even grazing on the land is what you want to see for health.
I think you bring up a really good point though, because so if you and I go to a buffet, chances are I might eat a little bit more than you, one would say, right? So is there a way in a process where you see, like, how many cows did this dairy have?
They grazed, or they had about 150, and we'd milk about 80.
And did some cows get more naturally because you're not singling them out? Are there some cows that eat less and almost like a runt type of situation? Or how do you protect against that in regenerative?
Yeah, I mean, by bunching them together, they're the bigger cows, the bully cows. I'm not saying you're a bully. Everyone's eating what they need to eat. They're not concerned about the other. I mean, sometimes you'll see the bully cows kind of knock them out of the way, but there's enough for everyone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. What about testing the cows for different types of diseases or different things that might pop up in traditional farming. Is there still a process for that and a way to administer maybe your minerals and things like that to the cows to make sure that you still have a tougher herd?
Yeah, we test for diseases that typically don't have much to do with their diet, but there's visual indications of mineral deficiencies, such as like, in a few months, cows all around the country will be losing their fur, their winter coat, and the ones that hold on to it can be indicative of certain deficiencies like copper. Yeah. So a good mineral mix should let them slick off easily. They should have like bright, shiny coats. And if it's not, it's typically a mineral imbalance or something else like a genetic disease or contagious disease.
And how would you in regenerative organic agriculture or regenerative agriculture, not organic, or it is organic too in this case?
I think it's always been organic in my lifetime.
So in this process,
people say it's beyond organic.
I like that. Beyond organic.
Yeah.
Can you say more to the certification of beyond organic?
Yeah. Well, is that an actual certification now?
Is, yeah.
Okay. Through who?
Well, Francis was on the board.
Oh, for the Real Organic Project.
Okay.
Yeah. So
great clarification there.
Yeah. Maybe that's their tagline or something. Well, Beyond Organic or Real Organic is just a step above the USDA organic standard. So we know that the USDA standard has been taking some hits with, in recent years, they've allowed hydroponic to be certified organic, which completely takes away from the point of organic, which is soil-based, where we're taking care of the earth, take care of us, and now we're able to put, plants in water and call it organic. And that seems like it could work, especially in urban areas, but go down to Florida and tour an organic blueberry farm, and they have all the blueberries in pots, and there's a line of water, of nutrient-rich water going to each pot, and that's all organic. The substrate soil that they're in is organic, the inputs are organic, but the land is sprayed and decimated, and because they can spray whatever they want on it, glyphosate, and so they're actually destroying it. So that's why the Real Organic Project started, was in light of that change in the USDA standard that took out soil, that allowed soilless agriculture to become organic.
What's your opinion on the forage feed or the beefiness of the plant in soil versus hydroponic? Do you think there's a difference?
Say that again.
So is there a difference between the plants when you grow it in hydroponic versus you grow it in soil?
Yes.
And so what's the difference?
Yeah. I'm not the biggest plant nerd about that, but I'd imagine that there would be deficiencies in certain nutrients, but maybe they're getting to have such a balanced intake in that it could be equally as nutritious. But then we could go on to say, like, what about the spirit and the life of that plant, and what it means to consume this lettuce that was kind of forced to grow in water and light inside, whereas you could consume a head of lettuce that was grown by Abby in the soil and checked on every day.
Abby, what do you think your opinion is of this?
I like that we can go into the spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
Because plants are earth, we are earth, and we are connected to the earth. And so if we take something separate and assume that we can mimic nature, is beyond us. It's not something I believe we can do properly.
Beyond organic.
Beyond organic.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. So when you say it's a step above organic of the USDA, though, what would be the added step? So you have the USDA organic, what's the added step above?
Yeah, I think that they require certain grazing practices. It's not just on pasture. So you can see these big organic dairies that they have pasture, but you look at the drone shot and it's just a dry lot. So they're They're being realistic. Yeah. They're going out to farms and they're saying like, yes, this is a organic farm. Sure. You are feeding the soil. You have a fertility program. There's rest. There's rotation of the animals.
Yeah. How often in regenerative dairy practice are you moving? How often are you moving the cows? Is it every day?
Back at Radiance Dairy, we were doing it twice a day. So after each milking, they got a new fresh acre.
Twice a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And 150 cows would it be in what type of a space?
Yeah, so they're sort of split. So we milk about 80, half we milk, half for young, growing up, or dry, taking a break. But yeah, and we would feed them at the barn, so it's not like we couldn't compare this to beef. Okay. But the stocking density was probably about like 80,000 pounds per acre.
Okay.
That we were.
So they would get a new acre, literally just a new acre per feeding.
Yeah.
Or per
That's how it was set up. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And so then the dairy itself, does it have a rotational milker, or what type of milker's in the dairy?
It's a swing 8 parlor. So it's actually, you kind of walk into a pit and 8 cows go on one side and 8 cows are on the other side, and your udder height.
Cool.
And able to.
And do you get more milk out of regenerative organic dairy cow, or less, or just a higher quality?
I'd say a higher quality. We weren't pushing them too hard to get a longer life out of them, and that also decreases disease and stress on the cows, and cleaner milk.
Gotcha. And so what type of age do you get out of a cow in this situation?
Well, when I first came back to Iowa in 2022, I was milking a cow that I had milked in high school.
Wow.
And so she was 18 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what, we can verify it by looking this up, but what's typical for a high production dairy?
Oh, they're done at like 4.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they'd still be healthy producing milk, but just the math of inputs to milk production just reaches a certain threshold, and then they go into the beef market.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, is the milk sold at a grade?
It's grade A.
It is. It's grade A. Mm-hmm. And is the U.S. the only people that do grade A, or are there other countries that do grade A, or are there countries that don't do grade A?
There's other countries.
Yeah. But some don't believe in it, maybe?
I have no idea. I am not the dairy.
Oh, okay. Gonna have to look into that one. Yeah. I heard that there may be a country that doesn't believe in the grade A process. We'll have to look it up, but.
You're speaking to A2.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. A2.
Yeah, the A's,
Interesting. So there's not an A2 maybe, but there is a grade A.
There's both.
There is both here.
So, grade A is just needs to be the bacteria in the milk needs to be below a certain level, and like standards of the milking parlor and holding facilities. Grade B could be cheese because there's a certain process that it goes through, but A2 milk is a genetic thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with how you manage the cows. So it's A2 is one from mom, A2 is one from dad. It can also be A1. Mm-hmm. So different combinations. You can do little Punnett squares. But basically A2 is talking about one of 3 casein proteins in the milk that people have found are more easily digestible than the A1 variation.
I see.
So they think that they're lactose intolerant, and they're actually not. They're just have a intolerance or an allergy to that one casein protein.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they think they're lactose intolerant, but there's just one protein, and drinking A2 may be a solution?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we just got there this year with that dairy, and there's customers that I was talking to, because this is a new trend.
Yeah.
It's here to stay. But people that I was talking to, letting them know, like, we only have 5 more cows left in the herd that are A1, A2. Like, your kid could probably eat it. And she's like, no, like they have such a large reaction to it, like I don't want to test it.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's like a gradient, like if it reaches a threshold and then you can consume the milk if there's a
I have some friends that would test this.
Yeah.
So in the Native American population, lactose intolerant is common, very common, and they still love milk.
Yeah.
So to the point that they will literally drive 60 miles to go to a Dairy Queen. It's amazing.
Really?
So we were doing a development down in Arizona, and they said, Aaron, we'd love to do this development, but you have to guarantee us a Dairy Queen if we give you the business. And I was like, okay, it was interesting. So
that's awesome.
If we can achieve a lactose intolerant switch.
Well, the lactose,
protein,
it's people that are lactose intolerant are lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
That's a the enzyme thing, but the sensitivity.
Interesting.
And a lot of people, like I have people over that say like, oh yeah, I just can't drink milk anymore. I have to take lactate. They can take it.
It would be interesting if we could feed the cows a certain type of regenerative plant crop or biome that would maybe change that. That would be interesting.
Yeah, well, since it's genetics, it can't be changed. What I have seen, there's a company, they're two sisters out in the East Coast that started a yogurt company, and they actually put lactase in the yogurt, and so it's people that are lactose intolerant can have it. So you can kind of adjust it after the fact.
Cool.
Yeah.
So now, are you with this dairy anymore?
No.
You're not with this dairy anymore, okay. Yeah. But you're looking for a new dairy that you could potentially either come in and take over with the intention to own it, or you're looking for a new dairy to work at, or where are you at right now?
I'm not looking to commit myself to any herd at this moment in time.
Okay.
It was a heartbreaking experience to watch the transition plan collapse. And I haven't been without a herd in my adult life. And there's parts of myself that I want to discover and live into that caring for hundreds of animals, I don't think let me explore.
Yeah.
So I'm going into my consulting career a lot more fully. And so right now I help people transition bare ground or non-ag land into agricultural land, and so that I work with landscape architects and deciding where a farm should be, how the road should go, how the water systems would go, what kind of cattle.
Wow.
So in the beginning stages, and so it's really fun. It feels meaningful, but I have so much more time for me, and with the collapse of the dairy transition, it was so obvious that the farmers need to be regenerated too. And getting to the end of your life, and there was a cash offer. It was simple. They took it. It was, it makes sense. But to get to the end of your life, of your career, and just be so burnt out, didn't seem like it was a truly regenerating experience, that lifestyle. And so I'm leaning into parts of myself, like how can I be a regenerated farmer? So I feel a lot more healthier, and I'm discovering what that is. I felt like I was really getting there with my farm team, though, at Radiance Dairy. How it was just a group of girls. It ended up being all women. And we were able to balance each other out, our skills. Everyone was rested. Everyone was balanced. And that was my jam. And figuring out how to get that into more of these small regenerative farms, I think is really important, because people come into it so inspired, so energetic, and they get depleted. And I think that there needs to be a framework to follow to keep these young, excited farmers excited, and not leaving the farm and going and doing landscape work.
So a social regenerative type of framework. That is really cool. Okay, so do you have an idea of how you may achieve this? Is it going to be like farm swapping? Is it going to be, like almost like I get to go Airbnb at your place and you get to come to my farm and do it? Or what are some of your thoughts, I guess, that you have on this?
It's I'm discovering it as I go. And I think that it is having support that promotes and uplifts. So I mean, as my role as a consultant, I can see this coming out as the farm is progressing and developing, and we're ready for farmers. It's setting up the framework in a way that it can be repeated, and I'm here to support them. So everyone needs 2 days off in a row.
Okay,
There needs to be enough people that if one person is burnt out, they can take a break and someone else can fill in.
Yeah, for sure. Two days in a row allows for people to travel and maybe surf too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
A weekend trip. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes as a manager, I'll have to battle my employees to say, no, you have to take 2 days off in a row.
Sure.
I won't let you. And then a few months later, they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I would have quit if.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what does a farm look like to pay a consultant like this to come in and do this? If somebody was coming in and setting up this process, what would they likely have to pay a consultant to do something like this?
Yeah. So my client has more than enough money. It's not your typical farm. He has other projects that he's working on too on these land.
Okay.
At this land. It can be anywhere from $70 to $200 for people to come in and help these type of projects.
When you say $70 to $200 an hour?
Yeah.
An hour?
Yeah,
okay.
consulting
And how many hours would you need with somebody to, if they follow your plan, to set their dairy up for something like this?
Oh, their dairy, yeah.
Could they do it in a season? Would it take them multiple seasons?
It just depends on the context.
Okay.
The scope.
Yeah. So I've got a farm. I'm interested.
Yeah.
Really, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I got a farm. It's 15,000 acres in Apple Valley, Utah.
Yeah.
It's likely that we're going to keep half of the farm as Angus beef, and we have a Wagyu chain right now as well. But we're building a community development. It's right at the base of Bryce Canyon, and there's another one at Zion's about 45 minutes away.
A rock climber.
Awesome, I love it. Cool. So they did make jumping off the arches illegal recently, just so you know. So, but if we were to bring in a consultant, the big one for us would be, we have 8 hotels in this valley, and 6 of them brand new, beautiful hotels, and we want to do farm to table. So a Radiance type dairy there would be amazing. So what would we expect to bring in and put in a dairy to grow to 150 cows like a Radiance? Like, what would we look to probably pay a consultant, you think?
That's a big undertaking. I mean, a dairy is a whole different thing over beef. And I've done beef more in my life, in my adult life, since coming back. It's just, it's complex at every level. It would probably, I mean, depending on how much time this consultant would have, it would probably be a year of planning.
Year of planning.
And then depending on sourcing and labor, the thing with dairy is it has to start all of a sudden. Like there's no, like beef, you can kind of like lean into it, maybe sell some cows if you don't have your market. Dairy, you get the dairy cows, and that evening they need to be milked, and there needs to be somewhere for the milk to go. Dairy.
So you need to build a facility. So you're probably realistically 3 to 5 months in building your facility out. And then you're going to look for your dairy herd. Then you bring in your dairy herd, and then do you grow your dairy herd size off of a typical stud type project where you have a really good mama cow and the mama cow has more cows and then?
Well, so if you're wanting to start with an A2 dairy, sourcing is going to be difficult because everyone's wanting to do that. But once you get your mama herd, we can do artificial insemination with sexed semen and get more females just out, but then they're 2 years out from being mamas too. So it takes a bit to grow and get there.
I like this.
But people are really into milk these days, and I think it's here to stay. And especially the A2 milk, it's making it more available to everyone. And people want whole foods. They want that whole fat in the milk.
Now, do you believe it's the type of native seed grass, regenerative? Do you think that's anything to do with the quality of the milk, or?
I definitely believe that the way that Radiance Dairy, for example, was regenerating their soil, has a lot to do with the value and the health of the milk.
Yeah. And does that carry through to the cheese products as well, or?
Definitely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, when the cows go back on grass, it changes everything. Sometimes the cheese doesn't form, sometimes it forms better. So like that transition, so that's all to say is it has a massive effect on the quality of the milk.
Did you have any favorite cows at the day? Yeah. The way she says that when she lights up, that's so good.
Michelle.
That's awesome. Michelle, the cow had a name?
Yeah.
Whoa, and had a human name. Wow. How did Michelle get its human name?
I think she was the sister of someone. She was the oldest cow at the time that I left. Just sweet, you know. And then there was Trouble.
Trouble.
She was funny.
Okay.
Yeah, she knew how to open the feed door.
Oh, wow, that's definitely Trouble.
Yeah.
How have you ever had to put down a cow, and how did they decide to put down a cow?
Yeah, well, when it's time, when we know that there's no return, we'll try and get them to a processor, so that there's a financial reason for it, and it's food.
Right.
But if it's too far gone, we can just put them down with a 22.
Wow.
And give our respects and say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it depends.
Interesting process.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever have to bring in feed?
Yes. So Radiance Dairy fed at milking, and I think the new owners are feeding a lot right now, and grazing less. But so it bringing in feed really helps the milk production. I mean, we can double milk production if we double feed, almost. But it's not as efficient as having the cows go out and do the harvesting and the processing themselves. But in my time there, we never really utilized cover crops, and sorghum cover crops would be amazing. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So regenerative agriculture. You can move regenerative, but you didn't incorporate other crops into the regenerative. Like you didn't seed in a cover crop.
We had some cover crops when we were when like a field just needed a reset, and they would graze that nurse crop. So we'd plant like rye with the perennial forage mix, and they would go and graze that.
I see.
But Francis had that farm for 30 plus years, and it was dialed in. I mean, the paddock sizes with the herd size and the lanes and everything. And
how many cows per acre of feed per milking do you think is the right number?
It depends on the context.
Okay.
It depends on where you are in the world. It's going to be different for the desert as it is to the Midwest.
Okay.
But, in non-brittle environments like here, and I was in Tennessee for 6 years, getting 2.5 acres per cow in the grazing season, that's not counting hay. If you're growing your own hay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying, if you were moving 1 acre for 150 cow, so 2.5 acres per cow. So you're basically saying, 1 acre for 150 cows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so 150 cows you would want what would that be? Would that be a 360 acre farm?
Yeah, so that's about what we had in grazing acres at Radiance Dairy, and then beyond that was crops. But we would extend into that, like especially on the shoulder season, start grazing before we put the crops in on a winter cover crop or something we put in, and then in the fall do some cleanup. Yeah. So we did cover crops. We didn't do summer annuals though.
I guess. Do dairy cows eat more than regular Angus beef?
Yeah. Because the dairy cow, it's just picture a nursing mom that's also pregnant.
Yeah.
Because they're not pregnant for just a couple months out of the year, but they're they're going to be producing milk the whole time that they're pregnant, or not the whole time that they're pregnant. They get a couple months off, but yeah. So their energy needs are high. You're basically feeding a dairy cow the way that you'd be feeding a beef cow in its last 3 months of life. So you want that increasing plane of nutrition for a beef cow to finish really nicely on forage, and get that intramuscular fat in there. So just that usually you just have that 3 months where you're putting your beef cows on the sorghum sudan cover crop, but dairy cows need that every day.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move to some wrap up questions. Okay. And they're gonna be more about you, if that's okay.
Okay.
So you had said prior, as we were getting to know each other, that you had always wanted to do this since the time you were 15, right? Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay, so now let's say that you are, at the end of your life, reviewing your life. And you look back at what you have accomplished and impressed upon the world from your experience. What would be that moment, like that crowning moment where you can say, I helped this happen? Maybe it's in regenerative, maybe it's in pro surfing, maybe it's somewhere in between. But what is there a moment that you would reflect back to say, if I helped the regenerative farmer, love it more, do this, maybe go and find time to travel and try other things and everything else, what would that look like to you?
Yeah, well, that's a great big question. I think that whether or not I'm a farmer or a consultant or an influence on people's lives, creating more farmers is really important to me. So if there's a path that I find that supports farmers in being farmers and also being a balanced human, then I'll be happy. I'll be ready to die.
Awesome. And and you're open to this anywhere in the world, even if it's in Costa Rica?
Yeah. I need to be on the coast near mountains, ocean, if I'm not in Fairfield, Iowa.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I like it. Well, there's a really cool brand that I'm a part of that's called Z Life.
Okay.
And it's called The Mountain to the Sea. And it's really cool. I could see it being a farm to table. It's not right now, but I could see it being a farm to table. Weena Zhang is this lady that's over this, and she had a farm in Mongolia. And the reason she got into what she's into now is because her father gave away her horse when she was 8, and it made her cry. So pretty impactful. And they're an all-women team too. Yeah. So, and they build beautiful high-end hotels and really cool stuff. So we'll have to see if we can get some of the people you consult to have vacations at her place and
there you go.
Sell their milk there.
There you go.
I know, it could be a good total value chain. So, well, Gaabi, it was amazing. I would love to hear Abby include some questions and thoughts.
Let's see. Final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
We know that you love Gaabi.
I do.
Yep. Good final thoughts. You have some. Just say it. Gaabi, when will you come to Apple Valley and work with us on your farm?
That one.
When I'm invited.
Nice. Okay. Are you working full time right now?
I'm, with all the work that I'm doing, yeah. But I'm doing,
could you break
soul work.
Could you break away February 2nd to February 9th? 3 weeks.
No.
Oh, she can't yet.
I have a site visit and tickets to Costa Rica.
Oh, nice. Okay. Let's see. We'll be back there in May.
Good. Okay. Yeah, May would be a good time.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
That sounds like fun, though.
Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Do you have any other thoughts?
I don't have any final thoughts.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Thank you. You rock.
Thank you. You guys rock.